But I also heard there is a rumor that you were almost fired in the first couple of months. So what happened there?
Yeah, so fully correct. It's actually not a rumor. It actually did happen. Um,
Today we have Alex Komrakov, my colleague, who has joined ABInBev, I think about 6 years ago,
6 years, yeah.
as as a global management trainee, or as we call it, a GMT. And within those 6 years, he made an amazing career and already became a director in the company. So we're going to talk to him today and learn from his career experience. So welcome, Alex. All right, Alex, let's go and let's introduce yourself a little bit and talk us through your career, because I think it's quite an interesting career. So talk us through a little bit some of the steps of your career.
Yeah. So indeed, Serge, I started as a GMT, which is a global management trainee program. It's basically a traineeship, like you have with other companies also. But with ABI, we are a beer company. We focus on the, let's say, the departments in beer, right? So we did a 10-month traineeship in sales, in marketing, in IT, in supply, right? So I spent 2 months in a brewery, right? And after those 10 months, we are able to go to our first role, right? Our first, let's say, real role, because the first 10 months we do a lot of projects, we learn a lot, but it's not a real role. It's a traineeship, right? So my first role was in finance. I was a bit cocky, right? As maybe some other campus hires or trainees are, right? And I said, give me the toughest challenge you have, right? And I got the opportunity to start in finance, which is working directly with our zone president and VP finance, which was great. I was responsible for what we call the financial monthly cycle for Europe. So making sure all the numbers were there, and also making sure that our let's say our management committee in Europe, they know the numbers, they know what's going on in all the markets, and was great because my first week. I was already in a meeting with our chief financial officer of Global. Of course, I was not speaking, right? I was
Yeah.
somewhere behind the camera, but that was for me like, wow, this is a real job. So yeah, that was a great start for me.
So how was that meeting, man? Were you nervous, or what do you remember from that meeting?
Yeah. So yeah, Serge, it was more than 6 years ago. I just remember that I didn't understand anything, uh, and I became quite nervous because the deck that was being presented, my manager said, next month you're creating this deck, and I didn't understand anything, right? Not a single number, not a single. I mean, what was on the slide, it was fully new for me. So yeah, I became a little bit nervous at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I remember you from when you started, because we even interacted, no, in the supply assignment
Yes.
that you did. But I also heard there is a rumor that you were almost fired in the first couple of months. So what happened there?
Yeah, so fully correct. It's actually not a rumor. It actually did happen. So I was expecting that there would be someone dedicated to me to answer all my questions, right? How does this number work? How does that work? What does this mean? What does that mean? But that's not the case, right? I think my expectations were a bit different compared to reality. And my manager at that time, I think, is one of the smartest people I know. So I would even call it a genius. So a very, very high IQ, but EQ, right? The emotional aspect of being a manager, which is also very important, was a bit lower. So when after some period of time, when I kept coming to him saying, "Hey, can you help me with this?" At some point, he told me, "Alex, you were hired here for you to help me do my job, not for me to do your job." And that's when he turned his head and went back to work. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, this means, I mean, I will need to do it myself, right?
Yeah.
And from, I mean, also before that, I was spending a lot of time to learn and to understand. But at some point, my manager went to his manager, said, look, it's not working out with Alex. I don't think he understands finance, right? So I don't think he gets it. So luckily, my manager said, no, let's wait a little bit longer. And luckily, after that, it went well, and I started to improve, and I started to grasp.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's an important point. No, it's like the transition when you go from campus to let's say corporate or work. I see this quite often that other campus hires that we work with, they expect to get like a teacher, like you have in campus, a teacher who teaches you everything all the time. But that's not really the case anymore, right? If you're lucky, you get a coach, you have a really good line manager, but you need to look, I think, a lot more yourself, no, rather than somebody telling you, let's go here, let's do that. You need to kind of find your way.
Yeah, and also I would recommend, which is what I did, asking your peers, your colleagues for help. Right? Hey, I'm new. How does this work? How does that work? That's sometimes an easier approach, because you're then peers, your colleagues, versus asking every little thing to your manager, which is
Line
probably
manager.
who is probably very busy also, right?
Very busy as well, yeah. All right. So those first months or your first role, you worked directly with, the CFO, CEO type of people. So can you share some learnings that, what are some of the main things that you learned in this type of role? Because I imagine that you learn things extremely fast when you work with, this level of people.
Yeah, so indeed, there were a lot of learnings, but I want to focus on a few of them, which I think are our Zoom president at that time basically indirectly taught me, right? So he was always very focused on the telling of stories, right? So a PowerPoint, it can be a great PowerPoint, it can be a bad PowerPoint. But what makes a PowerPoint compelling is if it has a story, right? Every meeting, every PowerPoint should always have what is the thing that you want to take home after the meeting. Is it alignment on budget? Is it alignment on strategy? Is it explaining the results, maybe something bad that happened but something good? There should always have a reason for that meeting, and something that if you check that box at the end of the meeting, that was a successful meeting. So a lot of things that our zone president focused a lot was the storytelling and the driving of the meeting himself. So not asking, hello, I mean, what would you like to talk about? No, he always had an agenda, and he drove the other person who he was presenting to with the agenda, right? Which was very powerful. What he also did before the meeting, he basically locked himself in a room all by himself. He had a printout of the PowerPoint, and he went through the slides. Right, he went through the slides in case he had a question about a number. Maybe he forgot something, or something changed. What happens also in case, because he knew his numbers very well. So he sometimes said, "Hey, Alex, this number last month was this. What happened?" And then, okay, I had to explain, or sometimes, by the way, I also made a mistake, and then I became very nervous. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let me quickly redo it. And what he said was basically, does it change the story? Right? Because if it's plus 5 million or plus 4 million, does it change the story? If not, there's not
Yeah.
going to be a lot of impact. So focus on the story. So as mentioned, he locked himself in a room by himself. He went through all the slides. Each section had a key message that was very important. And also in the meeting, in case there was a question, so he knew his numbers very well. In case
Yeah.
he did not know his numbers, what he implemented was what we call a cheat sheet. It's you're cheating, right? It's a
Yeah.
cheat to cheat. So basically, If someone asked, "Hey, that brand, what was the CAGR, the growth of that brand for the last 5 years?" Most of the numbers he knew because he knew his numbers very, very well,
Yeah.
but he always had his cheat sheet next to him. So he then had a look
Yeah.
on the right
Yeah.
or on the left and look at 5%. And that was very, very powerful. That is what we implemented all over finance.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like extreme preparation, right? In the end, if you look at it, whenever you go into a meeting, really prepare the story that you want to bring, the message that you want to bring, right? Tailor your slides to it, and drive the meeting rather than just having 20 slides, talk about a lot of things, but in the end, not really being able to bring out the key message. Yeah? Which I think is one of the skills that is like super important for you to make a progression in your career, because in the end you need to influence people, right? Whenever you have a meeting, it's kind of a test, and people will assess you, and you need to be able to influence that meeting. And I see this is a skill that a lot of people still need to develop, and you probably develop through learning, right? You develop through practicing, making mistakes, and doing it again. So that's the first couple of years in your career. Well, couple of years, probably what, 2 years?
Well, four years in finance, but that role I did a year and a half. Yeah.
And so now, about a year ago, you decided to move out of finance. Yeah? So you had a very successful career in finance for about 4 years, and then you decided to move to India for a role in operations. So why, as a GMT, having a great career, right, moving very fast up the ranks in finance, working directly with CEOs, CFOs, why would you move to India and go do an operations role, man?
The answer is actually quite simple, right? So I started in finance, and then I was lucky enough to be able to grow quite fast in finance. So basically, in a vertical, in 4 years, I did four roles, four different roles. So I learned a lot. So it was a great experience, and I would not change it for the world. But then my next step, which would be to be defined later, assuming I would still perform, there would only be one next role, which would be a finance director, right? And that would still be in the same vertical. So at some point, I started to think, okay, what other opportunities do I have outside of finance? Because I also wanted to grow outside, right? And one thing I think that was lacking for my side in my role before, I had a team of seven, but my leadership qualities I think was still lacking. I was quite strong in, let's say, the technical aspect, the financial aspect. I knew that, but from a leadership point of view, I had a team of seven, and I was not that great, right?
Yeah, a bit like your first boss, then, basically. Yeah.
Actually, yes, exactly that. But it's something that you also, same as a storytelling, there's something you're able to develop, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to develop it a lot, right? I also wanted to see an opportunity because I stayed always in Belgium or the Netherlands, right? So I also wanted to see if I could get an international experience outside, let's say, even Europe. And once this opportunity came up, to work here in India in ops, I truly believe this is where you build your leadership capabilities. Because now I have a team of before I had a team of seven, now I have a team of more than 200. Before I was working in one vertical in finance, now working in more than 8 verticals within that same
No.
team. So I've been able to develop my leadership skills a lot, but also expanding outside of my core finance vertical. So very happy with this move, and I would encourage everyone to also make this step, because this is how you develop your leadership skills, by managing big teams.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest advantages of running an operation, right? Like we have in India, is that you are being challenged with managing really big teams, right? The team that you manage today is around what, 200 people, I think, right?
Yeah.
So in your previous role, you were managing 7 people, and now you're managing 200 people. Huh? So there must be a lot of differences between those two roles? What was the biggest challenge for you moving from a team of 7 people to now managing 200?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was that as you move from, let's say, an individual contributor, let's say when you don't have a team, which is also how I started, to then manage a team, let's say, of seven, you need to make sure that you start being a leader and not an individual contributor. So you need to empower the team, right? Because with a team, you can do a lot more than even having the best individual contributor in the world. You will never be able to deliver more than as a team. So I think that was a big jump for me from an individual contributor to someone with a team of seven. The jump from a team of seven to a team of 200 is the same type of jump where you need to empower the team. Where, for example, before when I had a team of seven, maybe I spent a lot of time to changing the decks to the way that I would, let's say, showcase them, right? How I would
Yeah,
present them. Now it's about empowering the team, and sometimes even in your heart, you know that I would change that, right? I would do it differently. No, everyone is different, and that is something that you need to understand. Everyone has a different communication style, a different presentation style. It's about sometimes letting go, right? You will not be able to
yeah,
control everything. It's about empowering the team and giving the team the space to empower their team and to grow, not
yeah.
micromanage. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's tough, no? If you're kind of always responsible for indeed that smaller team, you can really, let's say, review, control every single output more or less of that team. Whereas now you have 200 people in different types of functions. You cannot review every PowerPoint anymore. You cannot sit in every meeting. So you need to really trust your team, right? And also be able to let go. So how do you get organized, man? Because I imagine within the team that you have today, you have what? You have tech sales, you have category management, you have marketing, you have social listening, you have so many different types of functions. Yeah? Working for Europe, North America, I think some GHQ there as well. So a huge number of stakeholders, very big domain. How do you keep on top of things, right? Before it was probably easy. One team, they're all close to you. You know what is the scope of your team. Now you have a team of, that really talks to so many different stakeholders, so many products. How do you make sure that you don't lose track of, in the end, your key responsibilities?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one great book which I would recommend to everyone who is listening is a book called Getting Things Done. So I think that helped me a lot. It's more about the concept, right? How do you make sure to get things done faster, right? There are
No,
different ways how to do it, but it's more about the concept. And there, I truly believe, as your complexity of the role or complexity of the team you grow in size, you have to become more organized because at some point you will drop the ball. And there, I mean, it is proven that we as humans, right, our brain is not developed to keep a lot of smaller things in mind. Okay, tomorrow I have to do this. Okay, Friday I have to do this. Right, next week I have to do this. It's impossible. We will drop the ball. We are very bad at it. So implementing the book like Getting Things Done eases your mind into knowing what you need to do when, and it gives you a call, right? And implementing that, yes, your teams become bigger or smaller. It gives you let's say a relief. And one great aspect there, which I want to highlight, which is a very simple tip everyone can implement today, is something that's called the CC box. CC box rule. It's something that if someone sends you an email and you're in CC, right? So in your email,
copy, yeah.
it goes to your CC box, right? What does that mean? It means that you don't look at it if you don't have time, because CC box by definition is for your information, but there is no action. If there is no action, don't give me extra stress and let it pop up on my email. Put it in my
Yeah.
CC box. I'll read it when I have time, once a week, twice a week, whenever I have time. So that helped me greatly to reduce 30 to 40% of my emails.
Yeah, so that's, man, I fully agree. I read this book, I think, what, 15 years ago. It's a pretty old book already, right? I remember even the first version that I read, you still had the folders in your desk, The guy really wrote out a whole system of how to organize your folders in your desk, to keep track of things and to not drop the ball. So great food for thought. I'm not a very organized person, and when I read the book, it really also gave me a couple of tips, like the CC box and many other things here that helps you to get organized. What it did with me is it gave you a lot more peace of mind, I think, right? Because one thing is that you don't forget certain things and you don't forget on certain responsibilities that you have. But secondly, man, it gives you peace of mind because all these things are not running around in your head; they're somewhere in your system. So, okay, that's one great recommendation for people to read the book. Yeah? There must be a new version with the new technologies, I assume. What else, man? What are some of the tips that you would have hoped your boss would have told you years ago in your career?
Yeah. So I think another concept which is very powerful is something that has made me grow as a leader the fastest, which is the power of feedback. So we hear a lot that feedback is a free gift, but it truly is. And from my personal experience and example, when I started, I was an individual contributor, and then I moved up, and then my previous role, I had a team of seven, right? I was extremely bad. I was very, very bad. The one thing that saved me and why I got the opportunity to now lead a team of 200, right? Not saying that I'm perfect. I'm still learning and improving. But what I started to do in my one-to-ones with my team, I said, look, I want to improve. Give me feedback. What can I do better? And they were very vocal, right? In ABI, we are very vocal, and that's the type of culture we have. So we speak what we think, right? So they said, and this, and this, and this, and this. So instead of saying yes, but, or hey, no, 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 I'm right, something like that, I wrote them down and I actively worked on it. And then the next one-to-one with that person, I asked, last time you mentioned this, has that improved? And then I saw that it improved, and it became a lot better. This is still something that I implement in all my one-to-ones now, right? No matter is it my team, is it my manager, is it someone from another team? Every one-to-one, I at the end ask, do you have any feedback for me? And I
Yeah,
write this down in my getting things done. Let's say
yeah, system.
ways of working, right? To make sure that I remember, and next time I speak to that person, I remind them, right?
Yeah,
What is also what why is it also very powerful is that even if you have, let's say, quote unquote, your worst enemy, right? Imagine someone that you cannot work with, you do not like. If you will ask that person, hey, I know we don't see eye to eye, but do you have any feedback for me how I can improve?
yeah,
That person will drop his or her guard, and maybe you will even become friends. And that is really a gift, because that is for
yeah.
free, that is honest feedback, something that you can take. And if you take it, you improve upon it, you will become better as a person and as a leader.
Yeah, but that's tough also, right? Again, it sounds very simple and just ask for the feedback and then do it. But I see that a lot of us were a bit, protective in of ourselves, no, in that sense that you ask for feedback, but you don't really want to hear it, or when somebody tells you something, you would start thinking about, yeah, but man, no, you see it incorrectly, because in fact what I meant was this. So did you from day one really, or how did you become open for that feedback? Because somehow it's criticism on yourself, right? It's not just that easy to take.
No, full agree. It was very difficult, and the first 2 months, I struggled. And even when I heard the feedback, I felt myself getting anxious, nervous, maybe angry, right?
Yeah,
So this was very, very difficult. Taking feedback that is, let's say, critical of you, and it is bad. I mean, bad, or things that you can improve, is very difficult. It's still not easy, but I turn it around. If that person feels that way, no matter what my intentions were, no matter what I wanted to portray or wanted to do, this is how that person feels. That's the perception he or she has on me. It's for me to change his or her perception, not the other way around. And you just have to keep asking and keep working on it. It's very difficult, But once you are open to it, this is what will accelerate your career very, very fast.
Yeah. And so some good tips there that you learned pretty early on in your career, right? Because you're only busy for, I'd say, about 6 years. So some good tips like, man, get organized, don't drop the ball, yeah, and then take feedback. Take it as a gift rather than kind of pushing back on feedback. So I'm gonna ask you for the last one, right? There must be one more thing that you say, man, this is something that I learned and made a big difference in my career, and I wish my first boss told me.
Yeah. So I indeed have one more, which is a quite funny one, which is something that my previous boss taught me or told me. It's called Codeword banana, right? So my personality, I tend to get very nervous in case the deadline ticks nearer, but I'm not ready. Right? This is how my personality is, or maybe let's say was. It's still the case, but it was very present when in my previous roles when I was more of a individual contributor, because I'm responsible for my work. If I don't deliver, it's on me, right? So I made sure I was always on time, the deadlines were met. So in at actually two examples, we had a meeting between my boss, the BU president, and myself, and we were discussing something to prepare for the meeting in 1 hour with the zone president. And there was some miscommunication, something that was misunderstood, so something was not ready. I didn't feel responsible. I feel very strongly about that. It was not my responsibility. So I exploded, right? I exploded because I was in that mindset, right?
To the
So
BU
my
president,
to the
basically,
BU
or
president, to the BU president. So this is
okay,
not
that's
something very smart for you to do.
yeah, yeah,
Luckily we were quite close, and he understood that also I was on a lot of pressure. But of course, this is not something that you need to do, right? So afterwards, my boss took me aside and he said, "Look, if you want to grow in this company, you will need to handle your emotions, right?" And then he said, "Look, let's have a code word. Whenever you are in that type of mindset where you're saying, okay, the deadline is sticking near and this and that is not really what to do, I stop thinking, I stop functioning." So he said, let's use
yeah,
the code word banana for you to recognize that you're in that mindset. Which was amazing. So which was amazing. We did never use the code word banana when there were other people, but when we had a one-to-one or we were working on a project and I was becoming that in that mindset, he just said banana, and I instantly snapped out of it. I said, "You're right. You're right." And actually, just by knowing that you are how you are in those types of situation, also helped me improve a lot. And since then, I would say I almost did not have such type of let's say outbursts, right? Emotional outbursts. So also something that might be a fun way how you can recognize your own pattern, your own way of thinking. Where in that mode, yeah.
yeah. So code word banana. All right, man. Good. Very nice. Some interesting learnings from a guy who's been with us for about 6 years, managing now 200 people. Looking forward to the legacy you're going to create here in India in the commercial operations team. I hope you're going to have some, what is it, chili paneer and samosas
Straight
this
after this call.
afternoon, straight after the call. All right, great. Thanks a lot, Alex. Thank you for listening to us. We'll meet again soon with more interesting stories and insights that will make you think, I wish my boss told me that. Cheers.